But if you have on people who are enterprising, who have a dream, who have a skill, how are you going to stop them?
I'm not saying that you should stop.
That's socialism.
No, because
They do stop it. In Europe, you have very few entrepreneurs because you know what the top tax rate is? In Finland, 80%. If 80% is going to the government, why should I work harder?
okay.
You don't think that impacts the national revenue and the tax revenue? You want the government to make more in taxes. When you cut tax rates, the government makes more money.
No, I mean it's the same as Canada. In some respects, Finland
Canada
is not
is more socialist than us, yeah.
Yeah, and
Although we're closing the gap very soon with the nationalized healthcare.
And the thing, but I think that a majority of people don't realize when, obviously universal healthcare, I think is important. Also, you may not agree that everyone should have the right to healthcare.
Where do our rights come from?
No. You didn't let me finish. But what people don't realize is that with a system like that, if you go to Canada, and Palin said this once, filling about the death list, and people didn't understand what she was actually saying.
She was 100% right.
And she was, the context that she used it was wrong, and she didn't explain it the right way. But people don't realize that.
Have you been to
go
Canada?
No, but if you go to Canada, if you have a disease and they diagnose you that's not favorable, they're either A, not going to treat you, or B, send you to America. They'll pay you.
Do you know there's more MRIs in Pittsburgh than all of Canada?
And that's what I'm saying.
How's that a good system? There's more MRIs in one American city than the whole nation.
No, I'm not saying that it is, and I'm using that as an example that in some cases it doesn't work.
Okay, so you just said socialism doesn't work in Canada, then that's opposite to what you say here.
In some respects, it won't, and also because they don't have.
What don't they have?
They don't have the. How do I say this?
Here's my question.
Where do your rights come from?
America.
Where do your rights come from?
Okay, no,
To healthcare?
No, and rights, your human. Where do your rights come from? Your right to whatever rights you have as an American. Where do they come from? No,
Yes.
they do not. You're wrong. They do not come from a constitution. The Constitution just writes down what our rights are. But what's the source?
if you want healthcare amendment,
Can you explain that again?
What is the source of your rights?
there is a bill.
I'm saying the Constitution.
The government
that's
does
where
not
my-
give me any rights.
An amendment requires all
Okay, then where do our rights come?
Our rights are God-given at the point of birth. They're inalienable rights. I'm born with them. The Constitution just wrote down what my rights are, and we put a government to limit what they can do to us and to protect those rights. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say what the government has to do to help me out. Not one place. Healthcare is not a right. It's a service that you have to buy just like a car.
I agree with your inalienable rights.
If it was, man, if you did, the American Constitution is the antithesis to socialism. It's the only document in the world which is completely opposed to socialism. Read the Founding Fathers. You think Jefferson and Washington and Adams and Hamilton were socialists?
No, I'm not
Read the Federalist Papers. The whole checks and balance in our system, and Article 1, Section 8 with the 17 enumerated powers of what the government can do. It's the most limited government constitution in the history of the world.
But do you think that each of those people weren't acting on their self-interest?
They were, but look at what they created, the greatest country on planet Earth, because they knew human nature. They knew that if you give too much power to one person or one branch of the government, you'll have tyranny and you end up in a dictatorship like they ran away from Europe. They understood human nature, that too much power to any party, any person is wrong. That's why you have a judiciary, executive, legislative, local control. You spread the power and don't give too much power and you have a limited government. They understood human nature. They studied Thomas Paine and the sociology of human beings. The Constitution, the people who wrote it were brilliant people who understand how people think. And of course the self-interest. They want you and I to go forth and prosper and become rich.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that if you went to a convention and you were talking to each of those the states, the delegates from the states, did they all want the same thing? No, because they want
there was a compromise. That's why we have 2 senators from each state. There was a compromise.
Yeah, exactly. To compromise between the small states and large states,
we
they
did
didn't
it.
all want the same thing. They didn't necessarily want
But
some
we
great
did have-
thing for America. They wanted the best for their state.
You know what? You're now saying exactly opposite. The 10th Amendment gives more powers to the states and the federal government, right? The states have the unique rights, and this whole socialized medicine healthcare is a violation of the 10th Amendment. They cannot force you and me to buy a product across the nation. The federal government has no right to do that.
Well,
They don't. There's 17 attorneys general who are filing suit to fight exactly that.
but what I'm saying, sir, is that I'm trying to say this without, because to be honest, I'm not here to offend you. I am here.
Let me tell you, you don't have the
understand.
power to offend me. Nobody can offend me unless I let them.
Exactly.
You can say what you want.
No, and I'm not here to fight with people, and I'm not here to.
We're just having a discussion.
Exactly, and I don't think that everyone understands.
Ignore him.
Like, exactly. Right?
Folks, you can get that song.
Okay, so
Here's my. I think you need to study history better. Go to a couple of countries which are not America, and you'll understand why we are the greatest country. You're young.
Smoke all day, every day. Right now, I'd like to introduce two very nice people.
It does. The more money the government takes from me, the less free I am. It's directly. A man cannot be free unless government is limited.
but my argument is that what would you do?
What would I do different?
What if government didn't take that $75,000 and you gave it to any other?
Okay, let's follow through what I would do. Let's say I put it all in the bank, right? I didn't give it to anybody. What does the bank do with it? They loan it to somebody who may start a business who employs people. So I don't put the money under my pillow at night. I put it in I invest in the stock market. What happens? That gives capital to some companies to buy equipment which hires people, and people have jobs. That's helping it. No matter what I do with the money, if I give it away or spend it on a Lexus or go on a vacation or put it in a bank, it ends up helping people. Way better than what the government would do. No central planner can figure out, I should give money to this person or this person, or have you? No way. Individuals making the decisions for their own life, their own community, to start a business, do it way better than the government can. Supermarket could never run as well as it does with the
One
government.
note in support of this: when Spain tried
The green
fostering
jobs.
green jobs and building capital-intensive
20%
things,
unemployment.
they did an economic study to see why unemployment was increasing very quickly. If you think about it, if I build something that involves a lot of manual labor with my capital, I'm spending 10% on the building, 90% on hiring people to work. If I'm building a solar array or a windmill, I'm spending 90% on the windmill, and 10% is going towards the labor to maintain the windmill. And the problem is that 90% will get locked up in the windmill, whereas the workers that get the 10 or 90% will go out and they'll buy groceries, they'll go out and buy a PlayStation, they'll go out and buy things. And the velocity of money there increases at a very high rate and generates greater GDP growth.